interact.
I'm just starting to record, Mila,
Yeah.
even though it's like in the middle of a discussion.
So, and we wouldn't know what that means if Rabbi Hillel wouldn't take a pause and explain us what is Chachma and what is Bina, which is a very simple thing that we would assume people who went through Chabad system, at least seminary and, all that stuff, would know. But, the fact is, most people don't know what exactly Chachma and what exactly Bina. And even if they think they know, it's a little bit, a lot, not necessarily so, right? There is, preconceived ideas about certain things. So why are we learning this over that? It's a good question. Now, the way Reb Hillel's biur developed is that it was published in a separate sefer called Likutei Biurim, like many other Sfarim that Kahas publishes. But specifically in Nun Beis, when the Rebbe mentioned that the Mittel Rebbe's work should be printed in Ksav Meruba, it used to be in Ksav Rashi. He also instructed that Rabbi Hillel's Pirushim should be published with the Rebbe's work. And this is truly something unheard of. You will not find any other chassid's work published together with the Rebbe's work. Rabbi Hillel is pretty much, the only one. I believe there's one other chassid that it happens where the biurim are published together with Rebbe's work. And Kahas didn't do it al das atzma, because they would never do such a thing al das atzma. They did it because there was a clear directive from the Rebbe to publish it that way. So from a simple assumption is that, when you study the Mittel Rebbe's work, the Rebbe wants us to study it with Reb Hillel, otherwise he wouldn't do such a thing. Like he wouldn't say, like, okay, publish it together if there was no need for that. And clearly, when you study Mittel Rebbe's, you need help to understand it. I've never met anybody who only studies, the Mittel Rebbe and feels absolutely confident and absolutely comfortable with everything what's written there, because it is very deep. Not that the Rebbe requires Reb Hillel. No, that's not what it is. It's just by design. Hashgacha pratis happened that way. I'm sure that people, with Mittel Rebbe sit and toil and do that. The way I see it is like Chumash and Rashi. You could read Chumash, read it. Do you really know it? No. You need Rashi to explain it. It's a pshat. Rashi puts a certain perspective on how we should be reading Chumash.
That's an excellent example. And so what do? Do we only learn Rashi? First we learn the pasuk, and then we learn the Rashi that explains the pasuk.
It's true, but I'll tell you what it is. The first, we will Bezrat Hashem get to the Mittel Rebbe, but the Biurim of Rabbi Hillel create a certain structure in our head, right? Understanding certain things, certain nuances, right? I mean, the way Chumash and Rashi design is like there's a, Chumash, and then there's almost every Chumash, every pasuk has Rashis, right? Usually, besides the parshias where things are being repeated, right? What Rashi says, I already explained it above, like when we're talking about the big Dekihuna and Kalim and all that. But for the most part, that's what it is. Now, B'ezrat Hashem, after the second chapter, we could go and visit first two chapters by the Mittel Rebbe. You'll see how picture looks very, very different from before and after. And maybe you're right. Maybe we should have just read the Mittel Rebbe, not understand anything, lose 50% of our class, and then we could go. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just. We could have done
I
that,
think
but, yeah.
the question is more the opposite. Like after we learned chapter 1, why didn't we go and look at the Mittel Rebbe?
It's a good question. Maybe we should have done this.
Okay.
Yeah.
The truth is, that my perspective on it, because I went after learning the first chapter, I went and read the Mittel Rebbe, And it seemed to me just on a first reading, because there's a Hebrew and English translation, and we can post it. So you can go and have a look at it on your own, Getty, if you want to, and you'll see that the style is very different. It seems to me very choppy, meaning that Reb Hillel has filled in all the gaps that you need to understand, whereas the Mittel Rebbe writes very kitzur, very short, and very not in the way that Reb Hillel does, where he's taking you, I mean, obviously he's taking you from one thought to another, but within those, what the thoughts that he's describing, he's making a huge assumption about your knowledge base. So now you should be able to go and read the Mittel Rebbe and understand it. But the truth is, I'm not sure that I did, just, just by perusing it. But I think that, Mila, with your permission, I'll post it with the
Sure,
Hebrew
it's
English,
important, and
and
I think
have a look. And maybe after chapter 2, we'll go back and spend a class, and you'll not necessarily to unpack it, but just to see, what is the style of the Mittel Rebbe, and then you'll see why we're reading Reb Hillel.
well, I'll tell you what it is. The Mittel Rebbe speaks for his generation at that moment, right? And the Mittel Rebbe assumes you know all this, right? Because he knows his Chassidim, the Chassidim were geniuses, right? So when he's talking to Reb Hillel, when he's talking to all, the Chevra that were very close to him, the Alter Rebbe, these were, giants and tzaddikim, most of them. Like, yeah, so this is the conversation level. So he doesn't need to elaborate on things because he's writing for them a kunshas bainanus to create a certain structure for them. It's like Imre Bina was really written for one chassid. So the language that the Rebbe is speaking in that, he is literally measuring the kalim of that particular chassid. He's speaking to him, right? I mean, obviously, it's also for all the chassidim. We know that Shara Yichud is for all the chassidim, right? It says in Hayom Yom that the Mittel Rebbe would write specific works for different chassidim, but Shara Yichud and Shari Ora are written for all the chassidim. But yeah, you really need to know, you need to fill in a lot of knowledge, a lot of background knowledge, and Mittel Rebbe is not doing that for you, right? He's filling in a lot of background knowledge. So you kind of have to be ready to learn this certain things.
That's so interesting because the Mittel Rebbe is known as Rechayve Sanar, and he's actually very, very expansive. You can go on and on and on and rehash it this way and that way and the other. And after you're saying point the opposite, is it that?
No, I'm not saying the opposite. What I'm trying to say is that when there is a reason why, the Reb Hillel had to write his beer.
Right. But
he is writing it for the beginners of the beginners. He's really writing it for people who have absolutely no clue what's flying.
So
it's provide that structure. What?
Sorry, I want to talk over you. So is Shar HaYichud different from the Mittel Rebbe's other writings in that?
No, but if you read any writings of the Mittel Rebbe, he is Rechov Sanar, but you understand that you need to be, having a prior knowledge to understand it. Obviously, after a solid Mittel Rebbe's Shara Yichud and Reb Hillel's and Kunshas Spailos, you will feel very comfortable with reading straight from the Rebbe, from the Mittel Rebbe, 100%. Before I would just read and understand completely zero, right? After working, quite diligently on these two works over the past few years, I could read other Ma'amarim from the Mittel Rebbe and really appreciate it, right? Because you understand the language, a little bit differently. There's always, more depth and more depth that we could, we could access. But I remember in the beginning, I was very fearful of the Mittel Rebbe, not because there was something wrong with Mittel Rebbe. I wasn't ready to receive it. My kalim, my brain wasn't, and my knowledge, there is a specific base knowledge that a person needs. And I think that's where Rabbi Hillel fill in those gaps, not in the Rebbe's word, the gaps in us, because we're not exposed to these type of languages. We have no idea what do we, so we could call we could call Reb Hillel Memutza, right? But if we're talking about now in a context of the paragraphs that we are learning, it's there has to be this Memutza in between, kind of thing.
So
I just wanted
that,
to say,
okay, but
yeah, I just wanted to say I'm learning Derech Mitzvotecha by the Tzemach Tzedek, and it has a similar. It goes paragraph, and then I don't have to say for myself, but it has a biur, a paragraph that explains, and Derech Mitzvotecha is clearly not as intense or as perhaps deep as the Mittler Rebbe, but still, it's the whole book is inyanim, whatever concepts, and the biurim just make it readable. But it is the Tzemach Tzedek's words, so it's his words and then the biur, and then his words and the biur.
right.
Which
So-
biurim are you working with, Tzemach Tzedek? Whose biurim is this?
I will tell you next Sunday. I'm sorry, I don't have the sefer. And
think
it's very
it's
hard.
Summary. I think she means the Kitzur, right? Is that what you mean?
No, well, it's paragraph by paragraph. It's not.
Like at the end of each section, there's like a short summary. Is that what you're talking
It's
No,
about?
the question is
Somebody
like, who creates those summaries, right? It's
Mila, I really want to move on. I think that it's a topic that may be interesting for some people, but not for everybody. And I'm sorry to cut it short, but I feel like we need to, unless unless everybody really thinks this is the most important thing for us to do.
An eye on the time for us, because we just go on and on and on. Thank you so much. Yes.
Okay, so let's get back to what we've been learning. I will say that after last week, I was extremely confused. And so what we're going to do in this class is we're going to go back over over paragraph 4 again, because I would assume that if it wasn't clear for me, that I'm not the only one that wasn't clear for. And so what I want to start with, and this is what I did for myself, I want to go back to paragraph 1, 2, and 3, and just clarify very briefly, what we know, what's familiar, so that we can now build and go into what's not so familiar. So I'm going to share our first image. This was paragraph 1. Okay. So this is something that everybody should be familiar with. We had the 3 levels of seichel in the Chochmah. So Reb Hillel is describing this to us. So if you have a look at this, hopefully it's familiar with you. We have Keser, Chochmah, and Bina. They're called the Gimel Reshim of the Seichel. And this is where there's pure conceptualization. When we're just learning a topic, just to know what it is without any application in our mind. We're just learning it for the theory, as it were. And then we come down to Chagat, which is Chesed, Gevurah, and Tiferet. And this is the process where we're either making a decision based on what we're studying. Do I want to, say I'm studying about building a house, as we always use that analogy. Then we decide like, oh, maybe I want to build a house. Do I? Yes, no, yes, no. Or if you're talking about halacha, it's the yes is it permissible or is it not permissible? Is it, and that's the chesed, gevurah, and tiferet, the chagat, the decision-making process. And then we come to the lower aspects, which is netzach, hod, and yesod. And this is now we're talking about it within the thought process. It's the thought process about how to actualize what we've decided we're going to do. And so that was the first paragraph. Then so then in the second paragraph, let's just see. He described this in more detail. See, so we learned about the 3 levels. And then in paragraph 2, he just told us that he introduced us to the idea of Yisrael Saba and Tavuna, where Yisrael Saba is the midas of Chochmah and Tavuna are the midas of Bina. And we learned that Yisrael Saba is not a new power and that Tavuna is a new power. And we learned about the idea of the physical brain of Tavuna actually absorbs the spiritual concept on the level of internalizing it, pnimiut. And the physical brain is actually changed by the process. And as a result of that, the midos then branch out of Tavuna, and a person can use this information for other situations, either about expanding on thinking about it or using it to accomplish other things. And then we had the question, well, if you're saying that Tavuna is that the idea is really settled in the brain, it sounds like there's no difference between Bina and Tavuna. Like, what is this klita? What does it mean that it's absorbed? And so we distinguished between Bina, which is the pure intellect of Bina, and Tavuna, which is the midos of the Bina. And we explained there that in Bina, the idea is settled, hityashvut. And in Tavuna, it's absorbed, klita. And the example that was given there is that 2 people can grasp a concept very well to the point of hityashvut, meaning it's really in the Bina brain. But after a long time, one person will remember it and one can forget it. And that's because the one who forgets it, the hityashvut was temporary. But the deep absorption of klita means that the person never forgets it. And what is required in order to have this klita, this real absorption into the brain, and we learned that that requires bitul in the vessel of the brain. Okay. So those were the concepts that we learned in the first 2 paragraphs. This process of going from something purely theoretical to bringing it down into within the mind still to something that's moving towards actualization. And then he said, okay, I want to explain this process to you with a mashal. So now we put aside what we learned to some extent in paragraph 1 and 2, and we go to paragraph 3. And in paragraph 3, he introduced us to this, which I think is just like amazing information to know, even in and of itself, is this process of how does the soul come into the body? And we see that there are these different stages in which the soul, the pure soul, can come into Gashmiut. Like, how is it that possible? There's such different worlds. So you have the pure lights of the soul, and then you have the chai basar, the physical flesh of the body. And how's the soul going to come into the body? And so there he explained, I'm going to show you the diagram that we had a look at. He showed that there's always got to be a mumutza. There's a process. So we had, these are the terms that we need to remember. We had the pure light of the soul, which is, we call the Adam Pnimi. And it's, you know, it's counterintuitive because pnimi means that it's internal, but the Adam pnimi here is the lights of the neshama that is outside of the body. And so this Adam pnimi, I mean, it's pnimi in a spiritual sense. It's like the real thing. It's our essence. It's who we really are, is this neshama light. And it has to have the 10 kochot hanefesh, because that's how it's going to segue into the body, is through the 10 soul powers. So it has these 10 soul powers in the soul, but in a very, very spiritual way. And those 10 soul powers are called the gashmiut of the ruchniut, the physical of the spiritual, because it's, you know, it's spiritual, but compared to the pureness of the soul, it's the 10 kochos already something that's like a yesh, that's gashmiut. So now we understand that we need a mamutza between this pure soul and the body. So this mamutza is called Adam Emtsai, or Tzalmi Nefesh, Tzalmian Nefesh. And this is where an estimation is made about how to bring the soul into the body, and it's done through the concept of otiot. Like, it's starting to create vessels in which to place the spiritual into the Adam Chitzoini, which is the Chai Basar, which is the body. And here in the body, the Chai Basar, you have the 10 Kochot HaNefesh, the 10 soul powers. And there, the 10 soul powers are the spiritual aspect of the physical. So the body is so physical that the soul powers are the spiritual aspect of the person. And then we understood that there's still a process for the soul to come into the body. Within the body, there's a process. There's a 3-part process. There's the process where the kochet hanefesh were hidden, kochot behelem. So we have these hidden powers, meaning there's the power of chochmah and bina, for example, but it's not manifest. Like, you have the ability to think, but you didn't think yet. Or you have the ability to do chesed, but you didn't do it yet. It's in potential. And then it becomes actualized. The powers are revealed, kochot begiloi. The powers become revealed when you actually think, when you actually do an act of kindness and such like. And he said between the hiddenness of the soul powers in the Adam Chitzoni, in the body, and the revelation of those soul powers, there's another memutza, there's another emtsai. And then in paragraph 4, which we learned last week, that's actually what he was describing. He's describing this emtsai. So, did anybody get that when they read paragraph 4? Exactly. So it's like you have to do the iyun to realize, like, oh, that's where we are. Now we've zoomed in to that particular part of this picture. In paragraph 4, we've zoomed into the Adam Chitzoni, into the Chai Basar, into the body. And now what we want to understand is how these soul powers go from being concealed, meaning being in potential, to becoming actualized. And Mila was telling me when we were reviewing this, she says that, which I think is kind of important to note, is that in some ways, what the Reb Hillel is trying to ingrain into our minds is this idea that everything has a process. Like there's always an emtsai, there's always a connector between the two extremes. So between the soul and the body, there's an emtsai. Then within the body, between the concealment and the revelation of the Eser Kochot, there's an emtsai. And when we start to think like that, we start to think b'derech prat, whereas normally, like already is given us so many details, and it begins to really, I think, create a deeper understanding of the universe. And also in the bigger picture, which I think we spoke about last week, it makes you realize that we are connected back and back and back and back to the original light, the original revelation of Hashem, even though we need these intermediaries, kind of like, you know, we need the commentary to be an intermediary between us and the original. That's a mashal. But here we are, paragraph 4, and we're going to take a look at it again, so that it becomes much more clear what it is that we're talking about and what is his point before we go on to paragraph 5.
Sorry, you
So
said
we-
a word I didn't understand. I didn't hear what it was. We need the color tree to. I don't know what you
Oh,
meant.
so now I was just referring back to our opening discussion about, you know, there's the Mittler Rebbe and there's us. And
Uh-huh.
Rebbe Hillel is creating the commentary is like a
Oh.
mimutza between us
Okay, okay.
and the Mittler Rebbe's Torah. Okay, thank you for asking so that I could clarify that. Okay, that's just a mashal for, you know, we always need a mimutza. We need a teacher. The teacher is also like that, you know, it's like, okay, Mila, over to
Yeah,
you.
I mean, a memutza is not always. I think that's what the Rebbe says about it changes in the Geula, right? In the Geula, it says we're not going to be learning from teachers anymore. Okay, so we need to find another job, Nariam. Okay, why is it? Because probably that memutza, something's going to happen to that memutza, but we see it throughout the whole entire Seder Shtalshalos. There's always kavah memtzai. And it's interestingly, the lashon is being used specifically emtzai. Memutza is the middle has, yeah, emtza is the shoresh of the word. Memutza has emtza to it, right?
So
Emtza
Mila,
is middle.
I just want to clarify for people, the Hebrew is not so good. What Mila is saying is there's the middle line. You have the right and left and center, and the center is called emtzai, the middle line.
Right.
The Mitzvah
Or
Rebbe is also
emtzai, right, exactly. Maybe that's why there is such an obsession with the whole thing, and right, with emtza. And why actually Mitzvah Rebbe is called emtzai? Because they were 100% sure, right, that Menachem Mendel is Mashiach, which was the name of the Tzemach Tzedek, right? Okay, so that's why Mittel Rebbe is called Mittel Rebbe, because there was Admar Hazaken, right, the Alter Rebbe, and then there's Mashiach, and who is in between is the Mittel Rebbe. So yeah, but you're right. The Mittel Rebbe is that, you know, this Mamutza, a Mechaber, happened to be that's, you know, the Bashgacha Pratis. And we actually see that Lubavitch starts with the Mittel Rebbe. Mittel Rebbe is the one who's established the town of Lubavitch as the center. And the Rebbe says that the Lubavitch starts with Mittel Rebbe. Obviously, you know, what did the Mittel Rebbe did? He took the whole Chachma of his father, the Alter Rebbe, right, and brought it down in such a way that was never understood before, right? And we know this whole machlek is between the Sterescheller and the Mittel Rebbe. where by the time of the Mittel Rebbe, many Hasidim didn't think that Mittel Rebbe was the continuation of the Alter Rebbe. Okay, they thought that Rabbi Aaron Sturshela is the continuation, not the Mittel Rebbe. And it was a long and painful process that actually left us with Kuntrasai Spilos. If not for that machlekes, I don't know if Mittel Rebbe would have written Kuntrasai Spilos. And the Bechain, the conclusion of the Kuntrasei Spilos, that we need his bonus to have a true hispilos. And, then we have what we're learning now, which is Shara Yechud. Okay. So what is this intermediary, right? It seems that the Rebbe is talking a lot about this intermediary process, which is the Kavayim Tzai, which is the middle line. And understanding the middle line, it's truly understanding that it's an obsession. It's like a point. And it might sound like very repetitive. Like, why is the Rebbe like going over and over? And Rebbe Hillel is going over and over. They want us to understand that there's this middle link that connects everything in Seder Hishtalshalos. And that middle link is godliness. Okay, this is Kava Emtsai. This is the middle line. And that middle line is Kava Emes, right? Is Tiferes. When we're talking about Tiferes, Das, Tiferes, Yesod, Malchus, right? These are the middle lines. And all these are essential because that's where the godliness travels. Any two levels are being connected through godliness. Right? Because we might think that there's Hishtalshalos without God, meaning it's like cause and effect. But no, any two levels connect because there's a special glue which is called godliness that connects the two. And it's like, it becomes like a triangle in a way, right? Where it's level number one, level number two, and the third one, there's always this third party that connects the one and two. And okay, let's move on. So what are we doing? We are doing the summary, or we're reading over the paragraph form? What should we do?
It's a good question. I think that we should go back to the text and go back and forth between your diagram and maybe even like let people do their own diagram in the beginning of the person. Just go through paragraph 4 and see where we're going with it.
Right. So before we do that, did any of you guys read the summary and the worksheet?
Miriam. Good job, Miriam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I did.
Okay. What do you think the Rebbe is talking about? What he wants us to do? What was like in 2 sentences, what was that about? What was the chapter 4 about? Telling us what?
The primary essence of man.
You see, we can also read.
My notes.
Okay.
Okay, primary essence of man, what?
I'm looking. So what we're talking about, the body, the midos.
Yeah, it's still very general. What about the body? What about the midas? It says something there which is very, very essential.
From what I gathered, one of the things is that through the midos, we are led to action.
How we become complete vessels, and how we bring it to revelation. That we bring it to revelation.
What's the essence of man? Let's put it this way. What's the ikar of the man?
So here it talks about the midos, which I guess, yeah. But
It is. By the way, there is no action taking place if you don't make decisions to make them. Remember, midas are decisions, right? It's not only love and fear. Love and fear brings us to do or not to do something. Okay. So he says here something phenomenal, in my opinion. He's saying here that right in the beginning, that the main ikar of the man is midas, not your seichel. Obviously, hamaisu aikar, somebody could argue. It's true. But you know what? You're not going to do anything if you don't compel to do it, right? A man is about the midas. We decide and we do. So the person might think like, what about the head? Right? Aren't we supposed to be Chabad? Right, it's true. And I think Nechama would appreciate this discussion, right? Because I mean, we talked a lot about it in past workshops and discussions. And yeah, because the main thing is not seichel. This whole paragraph is a beautiful illustration about what Chabad Chassidus is.
Aren't you saying that it starts with seichel? It starts with
He's saying that the seichel is intermediary, period. Seichel serves as a root to the tree. Can we say that the root is the tree? No, the tree has a trunk. That's the main part of the tree, is a trunk. Okay, so he compares the trunk to the trunk of a body. What resides in the body is a heart. That's it. That's the main point. The main point is the heart. Okay, so how are you going to bring the revelation of your Bina Liba, which is your super consciousness, right? And he says over here, all the way in the end, right? Let me just share my screen so we're going to be on the same page, right? This is paragraph 4. Everybody sees that? Yeah. Okay, so this is paragraph 4. Let's read it. Va'inyan o the ikar bechinas Adam, right? That's the main essence of the man. And bechinas hamidas hamidgalim bekli halev is the attribute of midas that are being revealed in the vessels of the heart. It makes like a blunt statement, and everybody's, oh, I thought that was my Bina. Didn't you just like spend a whole full chapter talking about Bina and importance of Bina and how it is rooted in Bina Liba and all these lofty things? Like, what are you saying about midas right now here? Yes, we had to go through all that homework of the first chapter to appreciate what is he going to see now, right? He already told us that Bina doesn't have complete Kalim. Chachma and Bina doesn't have complete Kalim. Remember that? From the previous. What does this mean, complete Kalim? Let's look. Sheshar Shemhu B'Kli HaMoyach. That they are rooted, meaning the midas are rooted in the intellect. Meaning the intellectual midas shabaseichel, which are the midas of Chachma and midas of Bina. The midas of Chachma, remember, Chachma and Bina is like mother and father, okay? In order for them to be mother and to be the father, they need to have midas, right? They got to like each other. Let's put it this way, right? If they don't like each other, they can't really have kids, okay? They have to like each other to the point where they're actually, going to conceive a baby, right? Then they give birth to the baby, which is the midas. So now this baby, where it's coming from the father and the mother. Where exactly they're coming from the midas of Bina and midas of Chachma. Okay? And he gives the mashal of the Adam, Gashmi, the human man, right? He has a head, trunk, and feet. And honestly, the head, usually by most normal people, is smaller than the trunk, right? That's just usually how it is. There is a message there. Well, Hashem could have created a huge head. Big, amazing head that in proportion to the body. Why not? That could have happened. It's going to be like a scary movie. But if we wouldn't know what normal means, that would be normal for us and we would live like that. That's not a problem. But for some reason, in the system that Hashem created, he chose the head to be smaller than the heart, than the body, right? Where the heart resides. Why is it? Because he wants to make a point that the head is not the most important. Okay? Rosh, guf, v'regel, right? There's a head, body, and feet. Interestingly, he does not include hands here, right? Because truly hands, you look where my hands are stretching out. On which level my hands are? On the level of my heart, right? Well, you can't really see my, here we go. You see my hands? Right? If you look hands, they're like extension of the heart. Although we do a lot of things with our hands, but it's still the heart. The feet, it's something a little bit, not a little bit, it's a lot position lower than our heart. And they, you know, they are the ones that's responsible for ma'aseh, the action. Because the head, right, becomes keharosh, right? The head becomes the source for midas of Chachma and Bina, right? V'haguf is galus amidas, and the guf is the revelation of the midas. Okay. So what's the point? Ubchinas haregel, ubchinas hispashtutem be'evriya ma'aseh, and the feet are what? You know, are the extensions of the organs of the action. So let's go back to the human being, right? Let's say I make a decision to do something, but if my feet are primary to hands, let's say, okay, I'm gonna go cook. My hands, what are they gonna do? They're not gonna cook if my feet are not gonna carry me to the kitchen, right? I want to go shopping. Well, what's my hands? It's true, my hands are gonna be the ones who's gonna be taking things from shelves. But if my feet are not going to carry me to do the action with my hands, we can't really do that. Does that make sense? So that's why here he specializes the feet, because the feet are actually go and do, right? You cannot tell a person to do something if the go doesn't precede it. The going is done with feet. Okay.
Mila, can I make
Yes.
a suggestion? You can overrule it, but I would just suggest that maybe you put a whiteboard and just do a drawing of that so that we see it, like, because it, you know, it can be quite confusing unless you actually put it into a diagram.
Yeah, we're going to do that, right? I mean, I don't think we need to, like, you know, it's a head, the body, feet, and hands, right? That's not an abstract situation.
No, it's not
Very
abstract.
accurate.
That's it. Okay.
Okay,
I
I
agree
put
that
it
picture
divide
helps
it
to conceptualize it. The pictures help.
picture
It's
something.
not-
I'll tell you what it is, but I just want to, my goal here is to show you that it's all in a text. In general, this is just my obsession.
Mhm.
If we go back to the text, right, you will see that it's all there. Do you know what I'm talking about? And that's the whole thing of the Eon. Because you know what? I could do a lot of creative things with Neria, right? But then you're always going to be dependent on us. I want to bring you to your own Geula, right? Because if you, I'll show you how to read a text and it will help you to read it. And you actually, everything is in a text. Where do you
Okay, so
think you're getting your ideas from?
then, Mila, my suggestion is that you get people to do the drawing themselves.
Okay,
So-
amazing. Let's do that. So draw ahead, right?
Can I just ask you something? If the feet is more connected to the Ratzon, because, you know,
Listen,
feet-
I'll tell you, Malka, I shut down all my analysis when I read a text.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. Because just for the sake of us getting the information.
Right, okay.
Why did I do that? It just, first of all, that's how I learn. And I also find this type of learning also very successful. Why? Because I don't think I would learn all what I was capable of learning, which is not a lot, but it's fair amount. If I wouldn't do that, because I'll tell you why. It's the matter of staying focused, right?
Mhm.
If at that moment, and it's also a certain state of bittul, Because if at
Yeah.
that moment I'm going to do all kinds of yichudim at the same time, there's parts of my brain are not going to be focused on right here, right now, reading this particular information, right? Right. Then what you're suggesting is very, very smart. And then after we take this in, we could go ahead and open up that door, right? Wide open and reconcile from what we know to what we're getting unknown. But right now, for the most people, what I'm understanding, this whole thing is still unknown. Like, what is it? So I'm trying to kind of analyze it and take it apart so we could just get the pshat of what is he talking about and why is he saying that? Okay. Okay, so what do we have up until now? Up until now, we have the, a novelty that the main ikar is the body, right? Not the body, the trunk. Why? Because the heart is being revealed there, and that's the main thing. Okay. And then the fact that there is head and the head is intermediary, right? That the shorish of the midas are coming from midas of Chachma and Bina. That makes sense, right? Wouldn't that make sense to you? That where the midas are in the heart appear, they just appear there? No, they are rooted in the midas of Chachma and Bina. Does that make sense for everybody? It's a logical conclusion, right?
Does that mean that anything that comes before the midos is outside of the body? Like the neshama,
Yeah, we're talking about or pnimi. We're talking about the inner light. And it's very important for us to understand that the body, whatever goes beyond that, that's makif. We have no concept of it. I mean, are you conscious about the discussions that your neshama has in Gan Eden right now? Who she meets? What are they talking about?
no, but I'm confused about the midos because you're saying anything that comes into the body is in the realm of midos.
Yeah, not the body. I'm talking about the trunk, right? So now
But
we get a revelation,
but in
right?
the head is the midos of Chachma and Bina, so
Exactly.
it's still midos.
Yeah, they are still midas for sure. But the
Now,
midas
Hannah,
of Chachma and the
all-
midas of Bina.
All of this is within the body, where this whole
From the
paragraph
Chachma and
is
on,
within the body.
yeah, from the Chachma and on, we're talking about the conscious mind. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like up until then, we don't know what's flying. We could have our ratzon and oneg are still koiches amakifim. They're not bepnimius. What comes into pnimius is from Chachma and on. Chachma, the midas of Chachma, Bina, the midas of Bina.
One
That,
second.
Oh, sorry.
Wait, so what came, I'm confused. I need to, what comes before the midos?
Seichel, Chachma, Bina, and Das.
So
Remember?
that's
Midas?
outside the body?
No, it's not. Anything from Chachma comes into the body. Remember, first chapter. Chachma gets revealed where? Where Chachma gets revealed?
In the head, I guess.
Where? First chapter. A fast recall. Chachma gets revealed in
In
the
the
right side
brain,
of the
in the
brain. Amazing. The Bina gets revealed in the left side of the brain. Das gets revealed in a back brain. Remember the first chapter, the beginning, right? Now we need to remember that the midas of the heart get revealed where? In the heart. That's just what it is. Now, also, the midas of the heart, they are rooted in the midas of Chachma and Bina, right? Cognitive behavioral therapy, right?
Just 1 minute, because Mila, you said before that we're talking about the Adam Panimi. Are we talking here about the Adam Panimi?
No, we're not talking about Adam Pnimi because Adam Pnimi was last.
I thought I heard saying that like a few sentences back.
No,
Okay.
I said or Pnimi. Or Pnimi
Okay.
is the inner light.
Is outside the body. And
Or Makif is outside of the body.
Okay.
Or
Eli,
Pnimi is
that was-
inside of the body. What does it mean
Okay.
inside of the body? There is literally a physical organ that reveals that light. Okay? It's not abstract. It's a very concrete. Yeah? Like, for example, My koach hamaskil has a possibility to think about who knows what. But then he starts thinking about, are you guys, do you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, for some, I was losing a couple. The or pnimi is that it literally gets revealed in the body, period. The first revelation of or pnimi is chachma. Anything beyond chachma is makiv. We're not conscious of it. We don't know what's going on there, right? Alavai, we should be conscious of chachma too. That's a different story, right? But I'm talking about like literally. Okay, so let's move forward.
So
with
I just want to clarify, do you differentiate between what you call seichel and the brain?
No, because seichel is the power that gets revealed in the brain. The seichel is the power of my soul that's divided into two, chachma and bina. My brain, if it's okay, if it's healthy, right? If it's literally a healthy brain, a healthy developed brain, will be the keli to reveal my seichel. A
So,
lot of times people have brain, but the brain is damaged, right?
so the
And if
seichel
chas
is the
v'shalom-
power behind the chachma and bina coming into the brain or into the mind. I don't know if you differentiate. And then that's how then they become the midos.
You know, can I say something? Can I say something? When we started this discussion in paragraph 4, we said the primary essence of man is his midas. But then we reminded ourselves, I just started reading, we're not talking about the midas regular, we're talking about the midas within the seichel.
No, we're talking about the midas.
Really?
Okay, let me
But
do
if
it.
we read
Go
it,
back
but
to
if
the
we
beginning.
read it, we see that the source of the midot in the heart is coming from the midot of chokhmah and midot of binah.
Exactly.
So-
Let's go back to the text. Thank you. Let's go back to the text. Ve'inyan hu. Let's just read. Ve'inyan hu ha'ikar bechinas adam, right? The essence of the man, and bechinas hamidas hamidgalim bekli halev.
Yeah.
Is the aspect of midas that reveal in the vessel of the heart.
Okay.
We're talking about a physical heart.
Okay.
That's the midas get revealed into it. Okay, that's clear.
Yeah.
V'shorsham, they are rooted. Who is they? Midas, right? The midas are rooted in the kli hamoyach. Yeah, the shorsham, the roots of the vessels of the intellect. I'm sorry, the roots are in the vessels of the intellect. Which vessels are we talking about? Brain. Brain is the vessel for the intellect. Okay, which is he specifies where, which has the bechines of the seichel, right? Which is the intellectual attributes, midas shebaseichel, which is the intellectual attributes, which is the midas of the brain, of the seichel, of the mind, which is what? He specifies, it goes into more details, right? That are the midas of chachma and midas of bina. Okay, is that clear?
So the
We're
brain,
talking about
Here
the
is where
brain
I
of
have a
the-
question, if I may ask. Here I have a question. What does it mean, midot of chokhmah and midot of binah? Is that already after the sechel became midot within the
No.
brain?
Okay, so let's go back. Okay, I'm going to share my out diagram. Okay, that's great that we're doing this. Okay, here we go. Do you remember this? That's was shared with us, right? Okay, we're going to go back and understand, and we won't be able to move anywhere further because this is like the foundation, okay, of anything that we're going to discuss. What is midas? Okay, we learned that a person could learn in the beginning of chapter 2, a person could learn about something as a concept that unrelated to doing. Do you remember that?
Instead of this, I didn't put anything on one.
Okay, then we talked about Chagat, Chesed, Gvura, and Tiferes. Who do you think Chagas is? Chagas is Midas. Okay, midas. So whatever concept we might be thinking about, you're going to make a decision to do it or not to do it. Okay, that's going to be a general direction of the midas. Then you're going to ask yourself a question, how to do it. That's already netzach and hod. And yesod. And malchus, you actually going to do it. So anything that just from conceptualized thinking until the action, okay, it's called midas. Believe it or not. It's not you feeling discouraged. It's not you feeling angry or upset. We're talking about a deeper sense of midas. The midas in terms of yes, no, how. You might think to yourself, like, excuse me, that doesn't sound like midas to me, right? That sounds more like a decision that's in my head. You're right. That's why it's called midas of the seichel. That clarifies you? It still happens in your head, for sure. It did not go to your heart.
Question, if I may. It
It did not
starts
go
from
to your heart.
Chagat. Is it from Chagat all the way to
But
Malchut?
these are the midas, like right here, this whole thing, it becomes a root for the midas, revealed midas in your heart. Okay? Does that like shed some light?
Definitely. I just have one question. Do you hear me? Is it
Yeah, we hear you.
Is it from conceptualization all the way to Malchut, or from Chagat all the way to Malchut?
I cannot hear you.
That's a problem. Yeah, I know. I realize that. Thank you. My question is, when you say midot of the midot of Chokhmah or midot of Bina, is it starting from Chagat all the way to Malchut, or from Gimel Rashin all the way to Malchut?
No, because if I'm talking about midas, Sarah, just hear the words midas of Chachma. What do you think I'm referring to?
I would think from Chagat on.
Beautiful. Because if I would be referring to only Seichel, I would say Gimel Ration. Remember?
Okay.
The
So
three heads.
it's not from conceptualization on, but from decision downwards.
Right. But you know what? I cannot make decision if I didn't conceptualize.
Okay.
Well, some people do it, but then they back off the same way how they backed in. Do you want to be religious? Yes, I want to come to Machon Chana home. Right? And then what happens to these people? 2 months later, you see them who knows where, right? Or a year later, you see them that. It was amazing Ratzon. The Ratzon get just revealed, but without conceptualization, they pump out. Okay, a better example. Do you want to build a house? Yes, I'm going for it. That's it. Yeah, we're going. Amazing. And then we have to have a contractor. Where are we going to take the money? How, what type of walls you want to have? What type of this you want to have? And the tiles. And once you're going to get loaded, what's going to happen to you? You're going to get overwhelmed and you're going to say, okay, I'm not doing it. Why? Because there was never any concept about what it takes to build a house. There was no details filled in. You had no idea what's flying. Okay? You made a decision based on impulse. Okay? That was not a thorough decision. You didn't sit down. You didn't make a decision. And that was just like shallow, we call it, right? It was not, a person didn't have a concept of it. We even say it, I had no concept. We literally say it, right? That means I did not have Gimel Ration there. On the contrary, when I have a proper Gimel Ration, then my decisions are going to be solid. Okay?
But Mila, can it go the other way? If you have like an impulsive, something comes to you impulsively, I want this and I want to do this. And then you go backwards and say, okay, if I really want to do this, does it make sense? And where does that add up?
You're right. Because we are very complex. And a lot of times our impulses are not coming from impulsivity of Nefesh HaBahamis, they are coming from the Pnimius HaRatzon. They're coming from a much higher source, which is the Pnimius of our Neshama, right? And when we all of a sudden intercept such an impulse, okay, and we act on it, a lot of times, yes, we could go back and reconcile. I could tell you that's how I opened my school. If I would go through the traditional Gimel ration situation, it would not come into any Maisa whatsoever. There was some kind of a higher consciousness that spoke within me, and I said, okay, we're doing it, okay? And then my Bina and my Chochma had to reconcile for a very long time to figure out how is that going to happen. Okay, yes, you're right. It happens sometimes like that. We jump into something, not because it's a calling of our Nefesh HaBahamis, but it's really calling of our higher consciousness, and we just intercept it, and for some reason, we just act on it. Okay, it's just like everything gets aligned somehow, and then the body kind of like, what's it called? Carries on. And what's a true, I would say, representation where it is coming from? It's time. If a person is doing for an extended period of time something, it usually shows that there is das there. Do you know what I mean? Like, you remember a person could do something for a very long time, meaning it somehow skipped the traditional model, not traditional model, like a normal model of how things develop.
Sequence.
Sequence of events, right? And it's kind of like skipped. And, you know, Hashem does it because, you see, we have to understand, very important thing. We are just learning structure, okay? But we also have to keep in mind, we are not subject to the structure. We're not confined by the structure. We have Chelek Eloka Mimal. And for a very long time, I had a question, Mimal what? We said, it's a Chelek, it's a piece of Hashem, Mimal, above. What does this mean, Chelek Eloka Mimal? All the time, it's really kind of like was this question that I kept in my mind for a very long time, until I saw actually by Reb Hillel, where he explains, it's Mimal Lehishtalshalos. Meaning it's a piece of our neshama that is our essence, and this essence is one with the essence of God, and God is not confined by any hishtalshalos. Therefore, that chelik is also not confined by any hishtalshalos. It could go reveal itself just like that, as if it doesn't exist. Okay? It doesn't exist because it's like your super boss. It's your super consciousness that could do whatever it wants. It has absolutely no hester of the body. It could get revealed in the body. And we see that people who were completely sinful, the body was exceptionally coarse. When that aspect of the neshama kicks in, the body takes no place. It could get revealed. There's absolutely nothing who could stand in the way of this, aspect of our soul. So that's why, sometimes we get interesting messages from that aspect of that soul, and then it just goes back to where it came from, and we left with a decision, right? So what's going to happen in order for that decision to stick in? We start reconciling other aspects of our brain. Our chachma will start working with it, and our bina is going to start working with it, and we're going to have the das, and so on and so forth. Then we will for sure go through the seder ishtalshalos with it, right? Because decision came from that. Okay.
So would you say that if this impulsive decision or desire is coming from the Nefesh HaBahamis, and you go out and you check it out with the Seichel and all that it wouldn't check out, that's a way of kind of screening to say, okay, that was just an impulse, I'm going to let it go?
You know what? Unfortunately, in my life, I have never seen like a clear how should I say it? Like a clear script of how to scan these things, you know what I mean? I guess this is something on individual level a person needs to either write to the Rebbe and, you know, like depending, I'm not talking about like, oh, whether I should make my eggs or not. I'm talking about
right.
major, you know, life decisions. It really with a mashpia, with the Rebbe and stuff like that, because I don't think there is a lot of script because, you know, in my personal life, I've seen so many interesting things that I did. And just what it is, you know, it's really like, you know, kind of like reconciling it with a higher source, you know, and there are ways to do it, but it's hard to tell. The only thing is years later we could see which decisions were
Mhm.
from where they're coming, you know, but b'shas ma'aseh, how to know? It's I just write to the Rebbe, and a lot of things is l'mala min
Sometimes it's overwhelming when you feel like it's so overwhelming, like the guy that brought the tray of meat, and all of a sudden he had this overwhelming feeling to take part of it. It was so overwhelming. And he realized that's coming from the Nefesh HaBahamis, because Nefesh Elokis does not come with such strong, like overwhelming need.
Okay.
And that's when he threw it into the garbage.
Okay, that's if you're Shmuel Munkus.
But we can learn
Hey,
from
we
it.
all have our greatness. You'll be so surprised when you really realign yourself with truth. Ana Nasiv Malka, when we choose the king, you know what I'm talking about?
So you
This
could
is
really,
the when
you
we
could really take a Nefesh Habamis impulse and then redirect it and turn it into something godly.
I think that you need to be Shmuel Munkis.
Okay. Can I offer two,
Getting that offer.
can I offer two paradigms that I have in my mind and see if this makes sense according to what we're learning here?
Okay, Giti, I would love to do that, but I'll tell you why. Because I just want to get the pshat of it going. Okay. And then we're gonna reconcile with everybody. Give me like 5 minutes, okay?
Okay.
Because it's like 11:20 and we're still in the first two
No
lines.
interruptions till you finish. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So is that clear, right? How it happens. So the midas start from this line on. Chagas Nehi. We're gonna leave Malchus out of the picture because that's when it actually happens. Okay. So Chagat answers the questions yes, no, Nehi, how. And it all happens in Seichel. We did that. Clear? If you're not objecting, I assume it is. Okay, we're going to go back to the text. So what we're saying is that the way things are projected in our heart, in our physical heart, right? A physical heart, in a trunk, they are rooted in the midas of Chachma and Bina. Is that logical or not? We're good with that? Can we, yeah?
Go ahead. You can
So I would suggest you mamish make a heart in a trunk and make like roots to the Chachma and Bina, okay? Because you'll know, like it's just going to be a visual representation. It's a tree upside down, okay?
Uh-huh.
And do you know usually trunks, they do into two, and these are going to be your feet. Usually trunks, they split into two, right? Two major ones. When you draw a tree, like it goes to two branches, these are going to be your feet. Mama's going to make a tree upside down. And the roots are going to be Chachma and Bina. The midas of Chachma and Bina b'derech prat. Okay. V'al derech ze adam agashmi. Right? The same way is the man, a physical man. Why? He has head, guf, v'regel. Right? Ki harosh hu b'chinas shorish hamidas, because the head is the root of midas, period. B'chachma and Bina. V'agufu is galus hamidas b'lev. And what's the body? Is the revelation of the midas in the heart. Whoa. Obchinas regel is the maise, organs of the maise. And we find in general, tiyur hadam obchinas hamidas bilvad. And if we'll look at the body in general, the main part is the trunk of the person, it's the midas. Okay, and the atzmius of Chachma and Bina, and the essence of Chachma and Bina, meaning the Chachma and Bina in essence, hem memutzoim bilvad, period. So anybody who thinks that Chabad is about the intellect, it's not. Chabad is about the heart, and intellect is a root of the heart. Okay, now I can tell you as a person who did a little bit of gardening, if your roots are not healthy, forget about your plant. Okay, because everything comes from the roots. It's true, roots are not the main plant, but it's an important aspect of the plant. It's the essence of your plant. If your roots are not doing its function, they're getting rottening, they won't be able to transmit to the main part of the plant, right? All the nutrients, water, minerals, etc., etc. But at the same time, we have to keep in mind that they're mimutza. They are primary aspect of the plant, but they're not primary plant. Okay? It's something that the plant needs in order to survive. Okay, that's why Chabad still remains Chabad. Because without Chabad, you are in delusion. Okay? Because without the Chabad, you are being nurtured by the Rebbe, and you don't have your own or pnimi. You don't have your own inner light, right? And the Rebbeim want to prepare us for Mashiach, that we don't need teachers anymore. We're not just going to be enlightened by He'ara that's coming from the Rebbe. Rebbe wants us to develop our own kalim, develop our own wisdom, our own understanding, so we could nurture our own midas. And maybe they're not going to be as great as the Rebbe's, but it's going to be ours. We're going to be the owners of our own self. Okay? So this is the whole goal. Okay? Now, what are they intermediary for? What are they doing? What's the function? Bein Adam Chitzoni Shebehelem. And you're like, oh, Mila, what are you doing? What Adam Chitzoni are you talking about? Okay, let's read it just, right? They are intermediary between Adam Chitzoni Shebehelem, that these are the aspects of the 10 powers of the soul before they came into a revelation, and between the level of Adam, that is begilui. And with that, that these are the revelations of the 10 faculties begilui. Now let's go back to our diagram right here, right? We did that. Remember this diagram we did last week? What was this situation here, right? Remember we talked about Adam Pnimi, right? Adam Pnimi is when the soul makes a decision. You know what? Okay, Hashem bribed me. I'll go down to enliven this soul, this body. Okay? Then Adam Chitzoni is literally Chaye Basar, is the flesh of the body. Okay? It's the actual body. Like here, I am. Then there's Talmi HaNefesh that's going to measure. It's like a funnel. How and what from my soul is going to come down to my body. Okay? It has to go through this according to the system that Hashem prepared. It doesn't have to go through this if Hashem would choose a different system. But this is the system that he chose. Okay? So all what we know is what Hashem chose, right? That's what he created. He created that it has to go through Talmi HaNefesh. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to stick with the lower level right here. Adam Chitzoni, right? Now, the koiches landed in my body. Now, they need to be unpacked. How is that going to happen? And if you remember when we were learning about it, we learned that it unpacks through, first of all, the powers are hidden, meaning I have a potential to speak, but all my speech apparatus is not speaking yet. Okay? And then they come into Gilui. Then all of a sudden you hear my voice and Mila is speaking. What he's saying, it actually goes through Emtsaim also. It goes through intermediaries as well. Interesting. And that's where we left off last paragraph, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in into this thing right now. Right here, okay? So this is, we are level number 3, Adam Chitzoni, Chaye Basar, etc., right? What he is suggesting is that our Chachma and Bina, this is exactly what we just said in the text, okay? Our Chachma and Bina are these intermediaries that connect the hidden powers with the revealed powers, okay? The revealed powers are the Tavuna, right? That's already imprinted in our brain. The midas of our heart, and it's all getting revealed already. But where they initiate the revelation through intermediaries, emtsaim, right here, right? Which are Chachma and Bina. So Chachma and Bina are these intermediaries. They are like roots compared to the source. Okay, so we're going to go through this understanding of what's the source, the root, and the trunk of a tree, right? So the flow, the godly flow from the hidden powers go into revealed powers, koiches hagluim, through Chachma and Bina. Is that clear or not? Oh, it's overwhelming.
Clear.
Clear? Okay, great. So that's it. This is a great understanding, right? So this is just, and when you read this, you are really obsessed about making sure that we understand that there is this middle link between every two level. There's this middle link that connects. Okay. And this is just very interesting, like that our consciousness begins with Chachma. And we know that. It's like Barak HaMavrik in my right, this is my right side, okay. In my right side, and then it goes into my left side. And that's how everything happens, the way it happens right now. We are conscious just because of our Chachma and Bina working very hard to bring this enormous Makif light into our Pnimi, into inner light. Okay? Yay.
That's the end of the text.
Questions. Yes, now you could ask your question.
Okay, so I had these two kind of visual or examples. So when I was listening to, I was catching up, so I wasn't live so much, I was listening. And what came to my mind, I said, tell me if this is like, I would let them see a face, draw a face, let's say with eyes and a nose. And then I would draw a face and I would add in, okay, and in that face, now I want to add something that I didn't have in it before. And let's say I would make the mouth. And for me, the mouth represented that, let's say the face is the mayach, seichel, whatever, chachma bina. And then the mouth, I'm saying I'm adding more details into a construct that we already had before. And that's the midas shebeseichel. And so the mouth actually, which does represent midas because it smiles. So I said, is that what it is? It's taking what we had before and it's adding another element, showing us more information of what's there. Yes or no?
Yeah, okay. Just please give me 2 minutes. I'm sorry, somebody just walked in.
Gitti, what you're saying seems right.
You assume, but let me hear from her. And then I had another muscle also, so
You're saying that the mouth represents midos.
it's like there's more, you know how you pixelate a picture, an image, and you don't see everything in the, but if you, as the more you look and you develop, you see more details in that same picture. And it's still in the seichel, but in the seichel, that's one idea. And the other thing, Nuria still here?
Yeah,
Nuria's- Okay.
yeah.
And the other idea that I was thinking, and we mentioned also those examples, I'm thinking of you plant a seed, and from the seed grows a tree with fruits. Now, the fruits are going to have the same genes as in the seed. There's a parallel construct. And so the idea of when we take midas and we look where the midas come from, so every detail in the midah comes from a parallel construct that where it originates in the seichel. So if you look at, that's why everything has a parallel construct, and you could take it a step higher where it comes from, and it's going. That's why you're still using the same words, but they're in a very, very different form. Just like a seed and a fruit that came out of it don't seem to be alike, except that it does have another seed in it. But they're just so different, and they taste different, smell different, eat different, and shape
It's
different.
fascinating because I've been teaching children about seeds and plants, and a seed has within it the whole fruit, everything that it needs to grow, but you don't see it.
Right.
It's concealed until it disintegrates in the ground and it comes forth.
So then that
Little by little, for each part, one at a time.
another level. So you look at the fruit, and the fruit are the midas, our emotional attributes. And they say, where did it come from? Oh, it
Mhm.
seed, an emotional attribute quality within its origin, which is seichel, chabad, yeah? And then you can take it further and say, well, this seed really, why did it grow and what happened? Really, it was not, it disintegrated. It's really the koyach eloki in the earth that made it grow. So again, you take that from the highest order and you say, oh, it really all came from Holocaust. So I feel that everything as it comes down in parallel constructs, but the shape and form and taste and feel and all parts of it are just so different that, and it's hard for us to go back to or to see it on a higher level because we don't know that higher level. So I mean, these are two constructs or like two paradigms that came up for me, and I'm checking to see if I'm in the ballpark.
Baruch
So
Hashem, I love the muscle of the seed and the plant because everything you see in nature, so that's the physical, science, the way Hashem created the world, and that's all reflected. It's a mirror of the physical and the spiritual.
Right.
And there's
And
so much to learn from it.
everything is the macrocosm is
Yep.
parallel to the microcosm. And in the microcosms, there are parallels that keep going up higher, ascending and descending, but just different. And we, to understand and to strip it away from the way we conceive it, that's a trick.
I think that, what you described, yeah, I'm not sure exactly, Gitty, all the details of how you're seeing it, but in general, I think that the way that I hear what you're saying is that he's really showing us the way that what's the word? It's like how patterns repeat themselves.
Right.
So when we look at, the hidden powers, then which, and the Emtsai being the Chokhmah and Bina, and the revealed powers, which he's going to say are really Tvuna and the Midot. So then we go back to chapter 1 and say, oh, well, then what are the hidden powers? What's above Chokhmah and Bina? What's the source of Chokhmah and Bina? So what is it from chapter 1? If Chokhmah and Bina is the mamutza, it's the mamutza between what and what? What are the powers above Chokhmah and Bina? Go back to chapter 1. You should know it.
Koyach HaMaskil.
Yeah, Koach HaMaskil, right. And within the Koach HaMaskil, he's going to suggest that it's the Bina Liba, which was the whole point of chapter 1, was to show us the Bina Liba, which is even higher than the Koach HaMaskil. So here we see these constructs of hidden, mamutza, revealed, everywhere we go in chapter 1. And the more you zoom in, you see the same structure. It's like a hologram, it's the same structure, but with different details.
Right.
So, when you're talking about a seed, we speak a lot about Chochmah being the seed, because it's like the masculine, and Bina being the womb. So the seed goes into the womb, and then you have a new, a new entity that is created. And that was the Tbuna, which is a new power that's created from the Chochmah and Bina working together. So you're constantly seeing similar patterns being revealed in every detail. And I think that, part of what he does, what Reb Hillel is doing for us, is something that he describes in one of the later chapters, is he gives us a large view of something, and then he zooms into a detail, and then he zooms back out. And this is the nature of having to learn. The question was so in paragraph 3, he showed us this large structure of the, those 3 stages of the soul going into the body. And now in paragraph 4, we suddenly realized, oh, he's zooming into the 3rd level. And now in the 3rd level, there are these 3 levels of, of the higher power, the intermediary, and the revealed power. It's the same structure. And this, then he tells us it's always the source, and the source, which is like the earth, and then the root, which is drawing sustenance from the source, and then giving it to be revealed in the trunk and in the branches, etc., etc. So, is somebody, whoops.
So would Malchus be when the tree is completely developed and then there are fruits?
I don't know exactly what we can say about Malchut, because Malchut is really, oh, Mila, you're back with us. Malchut is when things are actualized. So we're told that Malchut is like speech because it's revealed, or it's the action. So it depends where you are in the mashal. So for example, here, the mashal of the revealed powers is the trunk. That's the first stage of the revelation. Is that the Malchut? I don't know, because within the revealed powers, we haven't gone into the details of all of the revealed powers. Do you hear what I'm saying? That then as you go deeper, as you zoom in, then you have to adjust your mashal.
And
Right.
what about,
The powers in general, they divide into 2, seichel and midas. All the powers are usually divided into 2, seichel and midas. Seichel and midas. Then we go into individual ones, but generally speaking, that's why we are still learning b'derech klal compared to pratim going forward, right? That we still want to learn about how this whole dynamic of seichel and midas goes on.
Mila, what I would suggest is that just so that we get an overview of paragraph 4, because I feel like we still haven't gone all the way through it. Maybe you can just read the summary.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I missed that. There's a lot going on behind.
Okay,
the scenes.
must be
What did you
important.
ask? Yeah.
Perhaps I can just, if you're busy, maybe I can just read the summary to people and we can get the overall view of the whole paragraph and try and get the
Sure,
nakud
it's,
of the paragraph.
we could do that. So the summary is, quite straightforward, right? And it mentions here that the essence of the man is primarily the midas, emotional attributes expressed through the heart. These emotions originate in the intellect, specifically from the midas shebaseichel, like chachma and bina. The structure of the man parallels to human form, which is the head, the root of the attribute, which is intellect, body, emotional revelation, which is the heart, feet, expression in action, which are limbs. Chachma and bina are not end in themselves. They serve as intermediaries between hidden core of the soul, pnimius nukodas alev, bina liba, and its revealed state, actualized midas in the human heart. Okay, now they are the mamutza between hidden powers of the soul till they are fully revealed in the heart. When intellect truly internalizes and absorbs this light, becomes tvuna. Right? The text uses a mashal of deep waters from Koheles. Right? Mayim amukim etza belev ish, ve'ish tvuna yidalena. Right? The counsel of the heart of a man is like deep waters, but a man of tvuna will draw it out. This refers to deep concealed intellect in Bina, which hasn't yet fully settled into the vessel of conscious thought. And a man of understanding, someone with tvuna, can internalize and reveal these deep insights, bringing them into full clarity as if there was no depth to them. Right? And then the last paragraph talks about the Kabbalah, how all this concept is revealed in Kabbalah. The intellectual powers of Abba and Ima, father and mother, are called hidden because they are still under the level of Keser, Arichanpin, right? And the vessels are not fully formed. Okay, hence revelations through them are not fully clear, right? However, when revelation flows through Yisrael, Saba, and Tvuna, the midas of Chachma and Bina, which have complete vessels, in the world of Atzilus, it becomes fully expressed and the midas are clearly recognized. What does this mean? When we are still on the level of Chachma and Bina, we go back and forth with the essence of the concept. We didn't draw conclusion yet. There is no conclusion, whether it's good or bad. We are still in our Gimel Ration. Therefore, it's not fully revealed. That's why it has a keli, because it has ICS, but they're not yet on paper. They're not yet on a blueprint. It's just words, and they could change. For example, you're going to go and see a beautiful building, and you really, really like something, a detail in that building, okay? And you really want your house also to be like that, okay? But then you're going to go back, and your contractor will tell you, well, you know what? That building was on a hill. Therefore, there was no problem to have such a building. You are next to the river. It's going to flood your basement when it's going to be rain season. Okay. So now one detail, one clarification completely knocked down your whole thing. That's why the keli of the Bina is not yelly fully formed, meaning it always go back and forth and it could change. Okay. So I cannot have a clarity. Am I building such a house or not? I cannot make a decision because I'm still in this realm of gathering all the details. Okay. Therefore, the keli is not complete. But once there is a tvuna, right, in the aspect of tvuna, decision is there, right? And I know how this decision is going to be carried out. And I have such certainty that as if it's already carried out. That's why there's already an engravement in my brain. And that will be the stepping stone for the Midas to actually make the decision and carry this out in my heart and in the Maisa. Okay, that my feet are going to be running around and my hands are going to be doing what they need to be doing, etc., etc.
So
Okay.
Mila, if we go back to the diagram, just for the sake of clarity. So here, what would you say the hidden powers are based on the text? That he says specifically. I mean, we spoke about here when you were busy that they could be, you know, what's above Chochmah and Bina is Koach HaMaskil. But if you can fill out here on this diagram, or maybe you have a reason not to want to fill it out.
No, but no, we could. This is Koach HaMaskil for sure. Koach Behelim. This is
But
the
isn't
Koach
it-
in a concealed way, meaning I have an ability to see anything. But now a specific object is in front of my eyes. I'm seeing this.
But doesn't he say there in the summary, it says that it's referring to Pnimius Nekudat Halev, which is Bina Liba. That's what he's referring to as the hidden powers.
He says in the text also, yeah, but he's talking about in general. I don't think he's really specifying what are hidden powers. He is
Okay.
specifying that all whatever is hidden is hidden. It's our source, right, of anything, whatever that would be, Koach HaMaskil, Pnimis Nekudas Halev, whatever that would be, right?
And
Have to come into revelation in the body, right, in the midah, in a specific revelation in the heart. And they have to have emtsaim, they have to have the intermediary kalim. And this is our Chochmah and Bina.
Okay, so then when he goes into a lot of detail about Tvuna. Is Tvuna the beginning of what we call here Kochot Begiloi, the revealed powers?
Yes.
So would you put that in this?
Technically, we could call it here like this, something like this, you know, and we could call it Tvuna. It doesn't specifically say it, but he alludes to it.
But he talks a lot about Tvuna and saying that that's where the revelation takes place, or that's when.
Exactly. But I would say that it's in revealed powers. We could call that Tvuna is the beginning of the revealed powers. Okay, like it's revealed. Yeah.
The Tvuna and then the Midot themselves.
Right.
Okay.
And let's not forget, when our Chochmah gets revealed in the Seichel, it's also in a revealed power.
But it's only revealed in intellect. He says that earlier.
Yes, but it's only revealed in intellect.
It's still hidden.
In my brain, right, but it's still hidden.
It's not conscious. I mean, it's hard to imagine because, like, if we had to act, I was thinking about it when I was learning it. If we have to try and say, what is my experience of Yisrael Saba? I don't know if I could give you an example of, you know, we can say that flash of inspiration, but how would you experience Yisrael Saba? The midot of Chochmah.
It's a decision. This whole thing, what we discussed, these were the midas of Chochmah, remember?
Right.
That's Yisrael Saba when you make it's a decision. But then once it's made, the Bina engraves that decision. And how and everything. Do you understand? Like,
Right.
it's hard, you know, neuroscience really sheds a lot of light into this process. Like, I wouldn't be able to talk if the words that I'm saying are not engraved in my mind as a language that I'm using as a tool. We can't talk. If you teach kids, you know that you have to repeat thousands of times, not thousands, hundreds of times a word so they're able to actually repeat it. So that process of them hearing it, processing it, and being able to repeat it takes at least 2 years. And they hear language in the womb all the time, right? So we're talking about 9 months and then 2 years for formation of a language. This is engravement process that keeps happening in the brain of a child until he actually able to speak. And
what's interesting there is in Tanya somewhere, I don't know where, he says that a child understands language, but hasn't developed the kalim to to express it.
Exactly. And this
Also
kalim are
that-
going to be only the tvuna. The tvuna, that's the process that takes him, process to engrave. But you're right. Understand,
yeah.
he has, bina, he has. But to bring it out in the kalim of maise, and dibur is maise katan, right? It's a small action, speech. He needs the tvuna for that to happen. You cannot speak Chinese now. No matter how hard you're going to, in the beginning, you'll understand the language. By the way, do you know that my kids, for example, they understand Russian? I speak to them, they understand everything. Do they know how to speak? No. Why? Because they have bina, not tuna. They understand, but not tuna. In order for the lips to listen to the messages of the brain and form a sound, a sentence, it has to be on the level of tuna. They wouldn't be able to produce it. They can't. I mean, you need to have a translator to understand what they said in Russian. Okay, I probably intuitively tried to understand based on the concept and translate it to my mother or to my mother-in-law when they come to visit. But it's not going to happen.
So one other point that I don't know if this will confuse people, but when he goes into the Kabbalah of it and he talks about the level of Arich Anpin. Arich Anpin is Ratzon.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So there he's also suggesting that the hidden power includes Ratzon.
Right, because remember we talked about the Chochmah being hidden under the beard of Ati.
So the beard there was the Notzech, the 13 attributes of mercy.
Right, but it's under. And all koiches are gnuzes in the Ratzon. Because you see, I'm not going to confuse you. What's Arich Anpin? Is a long face.
Right.
What's Zer Anpin? The midas of the heart are what? It's a small face. This whole big Ratzon gets kind of compressed in the heart. Okay, what's in your desire gets revealed in the heart. That's very logical, right? Like your desires get revealed in the heart, but the desires, which is our super conscious power, right? Get all the way through to the heart through this, what's it called? The deflation process. It's like, imagine like this big balloon and you ride like a big smiley face on it and then you let go of the air, right? It becomes like this little face there. So that's
You're
more
saying
what ends up happening.
between what I want and what I'm able to manifest, already it's quite constricted by the
Sure,
time.
it's a tzimtzum. That's what a tzimtzum is, right? It has to be mitzamtzem.
Okay, so we have just a few minutes left. What I would really suggest to people, I think certainly for me, it's a lot clearer what paragraph 4 is talking about. I would recommend that, okay, other than, looking at this worksheet, which Mila put together, that you try to do drawings, like a few drawings. There are a few things that are going on. I would like, we'll download that, the diagram that Mila, that was on just before, so that you can work with that diagram, because that's basically gives you the main structure of the paragraph. But then go through the text, or at least the summary, but preferably the text, and create your own flowchart or diagrams. Try to understand this paragraph, because it's at first I have to say it's not so simple to understand. But if you have the context of, now we're talking about, we're zooming into the Adam Chitzoni, which means the Chai Basar, and we're trying to understand these 3 levels of the hidden powers, the Emtsai, and the revealed powers, like how the 10 Kochot HaNefesh get revealed. They go from being hidden in the body to being revealed in the body. That's what the whole paragraph is about. So in order to move forward, you need to kind of get a little bit of tvuna into this, like to really be able to grasp what's being said. Hopefully after this class, you'll grasp it a little bit more than last week. But in order to really get it, I think I would recommend that you put pen to paper and do drawings or do diagrams, try and work with it. And
Great.
here we
And,
are.
I think we could just, I would suggest maybe just reading it, and we already know the answers to this, right? Okay, what considered the primary essence of men according to this text? We answered that question, right? What is the main?
Midot, midas.
Exactly, midas, beautiful. What are the three parts of the human form mentioned, and what do they correspond to spiritually? The head,
The aspect of Chachma.
body,
And the legs.
legs. Okay, and what is the legs?
Koach masse.
Masa, beautiful. What do Chachma and Bina function in relation to emotional attributes?
Intermediaries.
Beautiful. What is the role of Tavuna in the process of revelation?
Absorption.
Okay, yeah.
It brings it into completeness.
Yeah.
Complete Gilui, clear Gilui.
She's the one who brings it. It's that she absorbs and megale, right? That's the Gilui part. Okay, explain the metaphor of deep waters. Guy does. What Ish Tvuna does. There's Maim Amukim. What does he do? He goes, he jumps, he draws deep water. That's the process of Bina. Comes out, brings the water. Oh, water. Not a big deal. Right?
One second. So if we're talking about potential, I'm bringing the potential out to reality,
Yeah.
clarity.
Clarity, exactly. Okay, and I'm sure you've learned with different people. I mean, there were people that I would learn, and it would just get even more confused and more confused. And there are some people that like they have it so
No, we can't hear you.
Oh, okay.
because it's within themselves. Oh, you can't hear me?
We can
Now
hear
I
you now.
We hear you.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we hear you. Ah, we thought we did.
Yeah, it fades in and out a lot. Like I couldn't hear the answer to number 3. Does anyone want to go over that again for me? Oh,
Very good.
could you go over number 3 again? I didn't hear. I mean, it faded out.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My internet wasn't stable for some reason. That's the message that I got. So it got okay, I'll share that in a moment. Sorry about that. Okay. Right here. So yeah, the waters from Mishlei that talks about, deep waters, and the person brings it out, and as if there's no depth to it. Like you don't see the depth of the waters. You don't understand the process. But they do it so effortlessly that it works out for them.
Is that Tvuna?
Yeah, deep waters is not Tvuna. Deep waters is Bina. Remember, he says deep waters of Bina. But Ish Tvuna Yidalena. The person who has Tvuna is able to bring it from deep to surface. Okay, and then the last question is, what is the difference between the revelation through Abba and Ima versus Israel Saba and Tvuna in Kabbalah? Very simple.
The first is incomplete. And the second is more
Complete, exactly. It's a true kalim. The Israel Saba and Tvuna is a real kalim through which things could actually be expressed.
Is that the difference
Chachma and Bina
between-
is incomplete.
Is that Seichel and Midos, or is that something else?
No, it's how complete the Kalim are.
Mhm.
Read that section all the way in the end to paragraph 4. He discusses that they have Kalim Gemurim in Israel Saba and Tuan, and you're right, these are the midas of Chachma and Bina. They have complete Kalim versus just the light of Chachma and Bina. The light of Chachma and Bina, they don't have complete Kalim. Do you know why? Because they're still conceptualizing. They still connected to Kachab, Keser, Chachma and Bina. They still reconciling. Do I really want it? I don't really want it. Do I have pleasure from this? Or I don't have pleasure from this? What kind of Keli Gomer are you going to have from that?
So
What
would
kind
you
of
say that,
conclusion are you going to make from
that's
that?
all in the head and it hasn't come down into the heart?
No, forget
What's-
about the heart. We're talking about they didn't even come down to the midas. Because Yisrael Saba and Tvuna, the midas of Chachma and Bina, it's still in the head. But we're talking about even in the head, one has an ability to fully express, the other one doesn't. Why is it? Well, very simply, because if I'm still in my, what is Kachab? Remember, it was Keser, Chachma, and Bina. I'm still reconciling with my Ratzon and Oneg. I cannot yet draw a decision. I'm going back and forth, back and forth. It's a theoretical learning. Okay. The decision is going to come when I'm complete. Okay. Yes, I want it. Do you know what I'm talking about? When it's fully reconciled with my Ratzon and Oneg. Then I could say, yes, then it's going to be a complete Keli. Up until then, it's not a complete Keli. Yeah, 1 second.
Can someone go over number 3 again, please, for me? Sorry.
Don't see what number 3 is, otherwise we could do that.
I just wanted to add one thing that I found very interesting, if I may. Many times in the Igros, the Rebbe mentions Israel Saba. I'm just going through a few of them, so I see ובגאון תרימו קרן ישראל סבא, or דרך ישראל סבא. And it seems to me to reconcile with what we're learning, and maybe I just I want to hear your input, that maybe an established tradition of behavior is what the Rebbe is referring to, is derech Israel Saba, or the chinuch of Israel Saba. I would like to
It's
hear.
interesting. You're right. Yeah.
Often,
I mean, there's
if you search
Israel
Igrot,
Saba, yeah.
In other words, why is the same language used?
It's beautiful because it's a tradition of
I
meaning
think
Chachma and Bina, it's a theoretical application. Meaning it doesn't even an application, it's a theoretical thinking. Yisrael Saba, it's a practical application of your learning. You know what I mean? Like the whole Talmud is based on Yisrael Saba. If you think about it, every halacha that is paskind goes through Yisrael Saba. Meaning they take this whole beautiful sea of Talmud, of theory, right? And they bring it down to a concrete, like, is it kosher or not kosher? Can you imagine? Like, I mean, you have to be a genius to do this for Yisrael Saba, right? And that's a tradition. You're right. It's a tradition. There is a way of thinking that a person needs to adapt. There are 13 ways how we derive halacha, and yeah, it's a process. It's a phenomenal process. I mean, anybody who goes to Dayanos, that's what they learn. How about we taking that sea of information,
to me,
practical halacha?
To me, it just is being true to the original form. That's what Yisrael Saba is. Don't look for modern, all the things that corrupted our original Yiddishkeit. Go back to Yisrael Saba, the original tradition, original form. And I see Yisrael Saba is, before it all came down, layers and levels below and below and below and developed. what's the original? The original. Go back all the way inside to the original when Hashem at that original point where or the point of origin.
Beautiful. And that's why it's midas of Chachma. Chachma is the original, unapplicable yet, point of truth, right? That's the revelation, the first revelation. That's what Chachma is. And the midah, how we apply that truth in our day-to-day life without diluting it, without modifying it, without trying to compromise it for the sake of Maisa. Imagine like you really want to have a house the way you want it to be. And the way you didn't think about your financial situation, you didn't think about feasibility, meaning like it didn't hit the real world yet. Does that make sense? Is your pure original desire being expressed in a form of a vision without being contaminated by the world's, you can do it, you cannot do it, you need permits to do it, and all that stuff. Right? It's like this pure form of your vision. This is what Yisrael Saba is, and the decision that no matter what, I'm going to do it the way it meant to be done. Yeah, like there's a certain level of conviction there to preserve the purity of the water. Do you know what I mean? Like it just, that's what Ma'ayan is, right? Ma'ayan is like, I'm carrying what's in the aquifer, right? This purity of the water. That's why everybody likes to drink Ma'ayan water.
So, Mila, we're at 2 hours exactly, and it's 10 past, whatever the hour is for you guys. I think that we should try.
My other
No.
students, my little ones, are waiting for me. So,
Yeah, so I'm going to stop
Baruch
recording.
Hashem. Any
And
questions?
what?
Yeah, our group is quite silent. Please ask questions.
So I'm holding open a Tanya over here with my commentary and the words of Usadaliba, just like you just had a discussion on Yisrael Saba. I want to present this here about Usadaliba and Perik Memdalit. It says when it's Behisgalus Libai, then it's called Usadaliba and Zayhar. And where's the place? In Bria. That seems to be like a thing over here that
Yes, Reusa Deliba is in Bria. Very
brings
good.
up to
Contra Spilos talks a lot about it. It's
Uh-huh.
the
Where are you
level
reading
that
from?
we
Where are you reading from? Where are you reading from?
So I'm looking, I have a Tanya with a commentary. It's called the Kut Hamar Tanya in Bir Hamar Shabbatayra. So
Oh, okay.
the Hebrew. But it's fascinating, the discussions that they have here. So he says, yeah, Rusa Liba, from this, you got to have Lavush made to the Neshama, and it's an Olam Habriya. That through Ava, that on the level that's called Rusa Liba, then the Torah mitzvahs that we learn go up to Olam Habriya. So what is this? I didn't get this whole Ru'usa Deliba connection with Bria from the learning that we
You're
did.
not gonna get it. I mean, Gitti, all the last prakim that we are dealing with, if you really want to get it, go to Contra Spilos. There you very, very nicely levels it out based on the level and how our consciousness changes, and therefore the type of ava we experience in our heart aligns with it. Don't wait. It's very hard to understand from Tanya. From Tanya, you take it on the level of Emunah. This is just what it is.
Right.
If you really want to have a Havana in it, go to Contra Spilos, that beautiful two biurim of
Uh-huh.
Hillel. The right beer is like more like a style of Chumash Rashi, and the left beer is just like an essays, how we're learning it now. I don't know how you could, it's going to be enlightening for anybody who wants to go deep understanding the levels of Ava and how our consciousness shifts.
Uh-huh. And is Ru'usa Deliba called a revealed Ahava?
Yeah, it's a revealed, fully fleshed Ava based on the Hisbonenus. Sure.
Uh-huh.
No obstacles yet. The heart is fully ready to accept all the contemplations of the mind.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I love you, but I must go.
Mila,
Thank you much.
I
Yeah.
just want to ask you one thing before you go. Can you just stay on for a
Sure.
sec?
No problem.
You don't have to wait for people to leave. Can you just download that
I agree, yes, and I'll
diagram?
share it
Yeah.
to the group. Mhm.
Share it to the group or share it to me, and then I'll upload it also to the Google folder.
Sure, beautiful.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye, thank you.